This week, we weigh in on BMW's new scale-tipping sedan, take a deep dive into the resurrection of the 1 millionth Corvette, and get way too excited about the affordable car that you could have in any color you want, straight from the factory. All that and so much more coming your way right now.
It's time to cruise the highways and byways of the auto industry's past, present, and future. Join us in exploring the vehicles, people, events, and places that have shaped the way we move. This is the Drive History Podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Drive History Podcast. This is Brian Corey. Jordan's over there texting.
Yep, sorry, business over here.
He's a busy guy.
Busy business guy on a Sunday morning.
Busy business guy on a busy Sunday morning.
It's a warm-up for us. It's a vocal warm-up for this podcast.
This is going great.
God.
So I was in Seattle yesterday.
Yep, talk to me.
The Greenwood Car Show was going on. I was not aware until I was on my way down there.
Classic.
It's a great show. Always has been.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've been to a big public car show, to be honest. You know, summer's just kicking off. So I went down there, just walked through. I was really, really impressed with it for a different reason than I would be normally, which would be to just, see the cars. But the sheer amount of people that are out and about that I would tend to not see at car events, I think. And I think that kind of just speaks to the popularity of automotive these days.
Totally.
But also the cars themselves were so much more diverse. It's not just Model Ts and hot rods anymore. I feel like that's what Greenwood Car Show is all about for a long time. But, you have the JDM people, you have the Volkswagen crowds, you have a lot more contemporary vehicles, Ferraris, Aston Martins, all that stuff is just lying the streets. And it made me realize I love car shows. I really, really do. And it's been a long time that I've really gotten a lot of joy out of just being around car people and
For
cars.
Sure. Yeah.
So my question to you is, did you grow up going to car shows, and what would you like to bring to a car show? If you put on a car show, what would it be?
Yeah. The event itself.
Yeah. Would it be a specific genre of cars? Would it be just kind of open?
So I grew up 4 blocks from where the Greenwood Car Show is. So I went almost every year as a kid and as a teen. And you are right, that car show has expanded massively over the years.
It's huge. It's
huge.
10 blocks long or more now.
For sure. It's probably easily a mile worth of cars on either side of the street. I think there's a critical thing here that show does, which is they shut down a gigantic, awesome, very busy street in a very popular neighborhood of Seattle.
True. It's all good restaurants, bars, and then there's tons of street vendors. There's live music. It's a party.
Yes. And I think that actually speaks to more of why it's popular than the cars.
That's fair.
Whereas you can go to your local Taco Bell and see a bunch of dudes with Honda Civics at any given day, right? And that's a car show, right? And then there's a car show, right? There's the Greenwood Car Show. So I think that's really what does it, is that all these different things you can do. It's kid friendly, it's pet friendly. That's another thing.
Yeah.
You're saying there's bars, there's restaurants there. It goes all day.
It was from 9 to 5. Yeah. And that's a long time for people to bring their car out and just sit there. But, also, they can wander around. You don't have to be there all day.
Yeah. I
don't feel like car shows now are the guy bringing the lawn chair and setting it up behind his car and making sure nobody touches his Corvette,
Yep.
And actually, I noticed on several car owners were letting kids get in their cars, touch them. They were scratching off the "Don't touch my car" sticker, that they give you, which is cool because we're just in a new era of, automotive. For
sure. And it's also free. I just realized.
True.
I forgot about that part, right? I always want to go to these events that cost $25, $30, $40. And I'm like, when I started thinking about it day of, I'm like, do I really want to pay $40 to go look at a bunch of Subarus?
Or monster trucks.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I don't know how much better you could really do it than the Greenwood show. The real dream here for me would be to have some sort of interactive driving experience there. I think that would really add to it. But I imagine then you wouldn't be doing it in the middle of a major metropolitan city if that were the case. But
fair.
That's what I would do. I'd bring something more interactive in, because I think there's like all these different varying tiers of how people are into cars. Some people just want to go look at cool shit.
True.
Some people want to drive it. Some people want to own those cars and show them off. Some people want to hear cars, right? They want to hear their.
They're the psychopaths.
Exactly, and the true psychopaths. But that show does it all pretty well, minus the like highly interactive side. Yeah, I'm a big fan, man. It's funny you mentioned that, because I grew up going to that. It's probably, in fact, thinking back, that's probably the only real car show that I attended until I was maybe in my 20s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Significant.
Yeah, and there was not a lot of new stuff in that for a long time. Like you're saying, now it's a whole mix, but in the back in the day, it was like just a bunch of 1920s through 1950s stuff.
Totally. I feel like that's what car shows were for a long time.
Yeah.
And so, although I remember going to, in Lake Stevens, they had Aquafest when I was like 16, 17, and 18. They probably still do it. But I remember being younger there and seeing like the Dodge Neon Club come out with like the SRT4s.
Hell yeah.
And, having that parked next to a Model A is pretty cool, It was evident that car shows were for more than just the old timers.
Yeah. I'm also Googling SRT4 right now, because I have not thought about buying a Neon SRT4 in a long time. And now I'm thinking about it.
Also comes in yellow.
Yeah, it comes in all sorts of crazy colors.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this thing is expensive. Wow, that's actually amazing though. Check this out. First thing on a Google search locally, 05 Neon SRT4. It's a Mopar Stage 2 from the factory. You could actually have them have tuning packages applied from the factory. Okay. Bright red. It's 27 grand. Now get this though. It has 5,000 miles on it.
Whoa.
Wow, that's like an actual collector's car.
That's interesting.
Oh, here we go. Wait, this doesn't make any sense. Here's an 05 for 10 grand, but with 1,200 miles on it? That's not true. That's got to be missing a zero. Yeah, this makes more sense. An 04 with 75,000 miles on it for 15 grand.
That's pretty good.
That's not bad. I mean, it's still a shitbox economy car with a gigantic turbo on it.
Yeah.
So there's that, but... Interesting. Maybe I'll have to dig into this later. That would be fun. They're so stupid.
Mister, I'm never buying a used car again.
I know. You know what I've really realized about myself is I think I'm just a dumb, snorty, roarty, turbo 4-cylinder guy.
There it is.
I just enjoy it. I enjoy it. I'd love a V8. I'd love something weird and different and cool, but I just find myself drawn back to these shitbox turbo 4s.
You want it to go wee?
Yeah, I do. I want all the sounds.
Yeah. Speaking of turbo 4-cylinders.
That's true. A little news today. Toyota is dropping the 2-liter 4-cylinder GR Supra from the 2025 lineup. That leaves, of course, the 3-liter 6-cylinder setup. The good news is that they're keeping the manual transmission for that 3-liter 6, which is awesome.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, that was added in later, and it was like the big ticket item last year because it was not offered with a manual initially, and people were like, how can you have a Supra without having a manual? But essentially what this means, of course, is that the 2-liter Supra is gone, which means the cost of entry is now higher naturally because the only one available is the 3-liter 6-cylinder, which now starts at $57-something thousand. Now, the more I thought about this, the more this felt right, because if you think back to the Mark IV Supra, there were only 2 engine options. There was a inline 6 turbo and an inline 6 naturally aspirated. So it already kind of didn't make a whole lot of sense to have a turbo 4 in the Supra, especially when such a nameplate got brought back after such a period of waiting.
Right.
I can't imagine they sold a lot of turbo 4s, and that's why we're here. Right?
Sure.
The other part about this is, famously, as we all know, the Supra is a collaboration between BMW and Toyota, and the 4-cylinder turbo version of the new Supra is literally a Z4 clone, which is one of the worst-selling BMW cars in recent memory. I think they're beautiful and they're really cool, but, I mean, when's the last time you saw a new Gen Z4 driving around? I think I've seen one.
They still make them?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know.
Beautiful car.
Sure.
Fun, but it's like, literally, I think I've seen one from the new gen in the past couple of years. And that's being killed off. And so it just kind of makes sense.
What does the Z4 go for now? Do you know?
It's a great question. I imagine, I think they're killing it off right now. It's starting at $54K.
Oh, wow.
Which says a lot because at the end of the day, that's almost Supra money as well. I believe 3-liter Supra. Like basically for $3 or $4 more, you could have a 6 turbo, but you're buying a 2-liter, or I don't know if it's 2-liter. Yeah, it is. It's a 2-liter 4-cylinder turbo. So like the you're paying a premium for the BMW Z4,
right?
But for what essentially? I would rather have a Supra anyway. They look cooler.
Okay, question: what engine's in the 86?
In naturally aspirated 4-cylinder.
Okay,
no turbo.
Got it.
Yeah, and that's like been to the chagrin of many people over the years. But if you really want to make a big deal out of it, put a turbo on it yourself.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
But so this the Supra is just definitely like a big step up. Man, I cannot talk. The Supra is a big step up from the 86. Like it's not like you're buying Toyota's entry level sports car versus buying like a
it's like more luxurious for sure, but it's a whole different thing. You know, whole different chassis, whole different story. But yeah, anyway, I think this makes sense not only financially, but I also think it makes sense because I cannot imagine that many new Supras Mark Vs were purchased with a 4-cylinder turbo. Don't get me wrong, it sounds cool, but for the price, you could buy something way more fun. So anyway, it feels like a return to form to the Mark IV Supra.
That's fair.
Yeah. In other news, BMW adjacent, the 2025 BMW M5 flagship M sedan has been announced, and it is going plug-in hybrid, which is an interesting choice. It combines the 4.4-liter V8 with an electric motor and produces 717 horsepower and 737 pound-feet of torque. Here's the big ticket item. The thing weighs 5,368 pounds. And the M Division's boss said that this hybrid system alone accounts for 882 pounds of that weight. Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's going to be available in November 2024, and it will start at about $120,000, and you can probably spec it to the moon. But what I thought was funny about this was, let's talk about a couple other cars that are in this exact same weight range.
Right, because we're talking about a sedan, just to remind everybody.
Yes.
So hear this.
A sedan that was previously thousands of pounds lighter.
Right.
In earlier history. Obviously, we can't have everything still be 2,500 pounds like it's 1992. But at the end of the day, this is what's kind of interesting. Here are 5 other current cars that weigh nearly that much in that same space. So we got a sedan. We have a BMW X7 SUV, which is quite literally the biggest vehicle that BMW makes. That's a 7-seater, 3-row SUV. The Audi Q7 SUV, which is also a 3-row SUV. A Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon, which is just a gigantic metal block on wheels.
Yeah, right. Bulletproof.
A Tesla Model X, which is if you think about it, this is what's really interesting, all-electric SUV with a gigantic battery in it.
Yeah.
It weighs the same as a Model X, which is like the biggest version of a vehicle that Tesla makes. And then a Ford Expedition SUV, which is just the biggest block on wheels.
Here's some metal on wheels.
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. You're going to dust anybody on this list, except for maybe the Tesla Model X from a speed perspective and from a more fun driving standpoint.
But only for 25 miles.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and I like the idea of a plug-in hybrid, but I don't know if it really makes a lot of sense on an M5 because I think you only get something like 25 miles of all-electric range.
Right.
Like you can barely go to the grocery store and back depending on where you live.
Right.
With 25 miles.
Yeah, and I feel like people who are buying this car are drivers. Yes. You know, they want to have a good time, and so I guess if you are just commuting locally a little bit, like the plug-in hybrid thing makes a lot of sense, and you can also use this car for touring and road trips and all that kind of thing. So like there's the advantage there. You don't have to rely on finding a charger on your trips and that kind of thing. I don't think that for me the plug-in hybrid just makes sense.
Yeah, in an M5 especially.
Almost in general. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get why it exists. It just seems like, especially with all that extra weight, you lose a lot of the fuel efficiency when the electric motor is not, operating.
Yeah.
I'm still just in the hybrid game. Like, we've been shopping around, and I think that's just where we stand.
I hear you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
But this is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it looks... I'll say this, they didn't absolutely butcher the looks of it. I think it looks pretty cool. Not a huge fan of the back end. Those new taillights aren't exactly my favorite, but The press photos are cool, kind of a British racing green kind of green going on. The grills are back to a semi-normalish state, although
gosh,
they're
thank
updated a little bit. It's cool. It looks good. I'd say it's a nice gap between the last gen X5 and where all the new like 2 Series have gone, which is that like crazy future-y looking thing. It's kind of a nice middle ground for me, at least to my eye. But now again, don't get me wrong. Would I drive it? Yes.
Yeah, of course you would.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right, so everybody by now has probably heard that Volkswagen has invested $5 billion into Rivian. Not breaking news by the time this comes out. And I'm sure I'm not the first to say that it's an interesting investment from Volkswagen in general because they're building the Scout, which is supposed to be a Rivian competitor. So you brought up earlier all the insider trading that supposedly happened around this. That's unsurprising to me. That's just the way the corporate world works at this point. Wall Street works at this point, I feel like. But it will be interesting to see how Volkswagen moves forward with Scout regarding this relationship. Yeah. I really want to know if they're going to remain competitors or if they're going to just like end up at the same delership eventually. Because there's still talk, is Rivian going to make it? Yeah. And I'm sure this $5 billion, which is supposed to go to, quote, a new electrical architecture and vehicle software for future models. Whose models? Right.
Yeah.
So
also, can we talk about this terminology in this blurb we're reading? The partnership will help Volkswagen move closer to developing software-defined vehicles and give Rivian a much-needed influx of cash. I don't think anything has made me feel grosser in a while than the phrase software-defined vehicles.
We drive computers,
I guess, but man, I hate that like the definition of the vehicles that are being made is based around software.
Yeah.
Like it's not the vehicle itself that's defining the vehicle or the way it looks, the way it drives. It's the shitty software that's baked into it.
Runs on an M1 chip.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh boy.
Anyway, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that goes. Rivian, to me, I've always liked them. I'd love to own one. Team SUV on them, by the way, for me. But they're kind of like the hottest girl in high school, but you're not sure if she's going to make for a good long-term partner. And I feel like that's how everybody's been treating Rivian.
What an analogy.
Right? Like Amazon invested in them to do like a side thing, right? And now VW's like, hey, I'm going to give you some money, but we're going to steal a little bit of tech from you. Like everyone wants to dance with her, but nobody wants to keep her for real.
Although I'll say like 1 in 10 cars I see, I feel like it's a Rivian these days.
Yeah, it's ticking up. And I'm happy to see it because I like them a lot.
Yeah,
and I'd much rather drive one than drive a Tesla. So
true.
Just from a pure aesthetic standpoint and just the like type of vehicle that I like more.
True.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where things go. But yeah, history time. What do we got?
Truly. Today? All right. July 2nd through July 8th. And we are starting on July 2nd, 1992, when the 1 millionth Corvette rolled out of General Motors' Bowling Green, Kentucky assembly plant. It was a convertible with red interior, a white exterior, and a black top, which was the very same color scheme of the original 1953 Corvettes.
It's dope.
I believe this car was catastrophically crushed when the sinkhole opened up inside the National Corvette Museum. This was one of the cars that fell into it, and it did undergo restoration. I believe it was just debuted again, and it went through restoration at General Motors. They were able to save all sorts of components from the car, the original car, including, so a lot of the assembly line workers signed it. And so they got all the parts where the assembly workers signed to lay flat again and save that, which is pretty cool. I mean, it's a historical vehicle for sure. So it got the attention it deserved. But yeah, that whole sinkhole thing was crazy.
It was an inside job, dude. It must have been. I mean, seriously, like what are the odds?
Insurance? Yeah.
Right? Like what a weird. You've got a one of one vehicle or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then that just happens to be sitting in an area where a sinkhole opens and swallows it. Like the mathematical equation of this is ridiculous.
It was inside the museum. I think a total of 7 cars went into the sinkhole. And
I feel like that should increase the value of those cars.
I think it did. And several of them are still on display in their destroyed condition. And I think 3 of them or something like that went through restoration. Yeah, it's crazy.
I was just thinking about like And this goes into my next note here, but I was thinking about, the joke is always about how Corvette owners always have some special edition. Like, I got a 1 of 1 if it was made on this day in this color with this color floor mats. Like, yeah, well, I've got a sinkhole edition of my Corvette. Not only was it a 1 of 1 first, but then it fell into a 1 of 1 sinkhole.
So true.
So true. Get
out the New Balances.
Speaking of rare Corvettes, I just dug into this a little bit because I thought it was interesting. The 1971 Chevy Corvette ZR2 is considered to be one of the rarest Corvettes ever built. 12 of them were made, and 2 of those were convertibles. And obviously it was known for its performance and handling, which included chassis and cooling upgrades. It had a 454 engine and 425 horsepower, but it did not come with air conditioning or radio.
Oh, much true sports car.
Yeah, totally. Just like my Miata I bought accidentally. In 2019, an Ontario Orange ZR2 with its factory hardtop was estimated to be worth between $350,000 and $450,000. And in 2022, a Bloomington gold-colored ZR2 convertible sold for $875,000. So talk about rare Corvettes. This is like the apex of that.
Man, I would love to drive a few more Corvettes. I honestly love this generation, the 1971. That's C3. I think it was like 68 to 82.
Yeah,
and it got really bulky at the end. And those are some of the more affordable Corvettes just before the C4 generation.
Yeah,
you can get them for like $10,000 with a 350 and a 4-speed, but like they were depleted of horsepower at that point.
Right.
But still fun to drive.
Yeah,
I want one.
I mean, I'm sure it'll go up. Everything goes up, right? All these cars go up.
But. And they're beautiful. I mean, I always think of like Burt Reynolds.
Yeah,
when I see these cars.
For sure, you got to rock the stash,
right? And a cowboy hat.
Exactly. July 3rd, 1916, the first automobile of the Jordan Motor Car Company, unrelated to me, was manufactured in Cleveland, Ohio. Noted for using components from other manufacturers, the cars were known more for their attractive styling rather than their reliance and drivability. Also like myself. The founder, Edward Jordan, a former advertising executive, believed that people who dressed smartly would prefer to drive smart-looking cars. And as you can guess, the advertising was rather interesting. On an ad for a 1923 model known as the Jordan Playboy.
Hey, that's like you too.
I wish. Read, quote, "Somewhere west of Laramie, there's a bronco-busting, steer-roping girl who knows what I'm talking about. She can tell what a sassy pony. That's a cross between Greased Lightning and the place where it hits. Can do with an 1,100 pounds of steel and action when he's going high, wide, and handsome.
Also like you.
The Jordan Playboy was built for her. ... It continues on. And this company went out of business in 1931 after some 78,000 vehicles were built.
Oh my God, that advertising is class.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, and like the advertisements themselves are like beautiful one-page, big, magazine style spreads. And it just got me thinking, I work in marketing and advertising for a living nowadays, and I, on a weekly basis, think about how I think the peak of advertising was automotive ads in print magazines. There was such badass advertising in newspapers and magazines. I loved like the one pager, the classic VW ad, think small.
Totally. All
that kind of stuff.
Iconic.
Iconic. And it was just so indicative of the time, but also is timeless. I feel like when you look at those ads, you just love them. And like the humor and sort of there was like sexual innuendo and funny humor in the 80s and 90s. It was great. And I wish that we saw more of that now.
Right, because now it's just Woody Harrelson or whoever using a raspy voice to try and sell you a car driving through the woods.
That's right. Literally, that's it. Yeah. It's almost like, well, no, it is. It's not almost. It is. It's such a cliche.
Yeah.
Car advertising is so boring and such a cliche.
It is. It's too safe.
Yeah, so boring.
I don't want to buy any. I don't think I've ever seen a car ad that's made me say, I'm going to buy that car.
Totally. Yeah. Because I'm already on Marketplace looking at 20-year-old four-cylinder turbos with 200,000 miles on them. But
money well spent.
Yeah, that's right. Back to you, brother. What we got?
All right. July 3rd, 1985. The feature film Back to the Future is released in the USA, starring a time-traveling DeLorean DMC-12. Iconic vehicle. Also, better known for its acting skills than its performance.
True.
So we're still hoping to get Cat DeLorean on here. we mentioned a few episodes ago that she was interested in coming in and talking about where the company's going these days, because she's still trying to relaunch the family business.
I mean, let's go. Before we do that episode, I feel like it's time for me to divulge something.
Uh-oh.
I've actually never seen Back to the Future.
I'm speechless.
I know.
I literally couldn't come up with anything.
I've never seen the movie all the way through.
Okay.
I've seen chunks of it a million times.
Yeah.
Never seen the full film all the way through. And I think I'm saying this on record so that I can be held accountable to actually watch it before Kat comes on the show, because that would be the dumbest thing ever.
You better.
Yeah.
Although I'm curious how she feels about it. Obviously, that movie, gave credence to the DeLorean, but did it take away from what it actually was, or wasn't, for that matter?
True. You know what I think the question you're asking here is, without that movie, what is it?
Right.
It's like, trying to think of a good example here, but
it's Nike without Michael Jordan.
Sure. Or what is an actor that, once they got famous in one thing, you can never see them.
Oh, right. It's like the Friends characters.
Yeah. Or like, my God. Yeah, for real. Like David Schwimmer. Like David Schwimmer, literally never did anything after.
He was
Friends.
in Band of Brothers at the very end of Friends.
You're right.
But even watching him in Band of Brothers, I'm like, what is Ross doing here?
Yeah, what is he doing here? He's way too soft for this. Yeah. That's amazing. Anyway, I need to do some homework and actually watch Back to the Future. I feel like a piece of shit.
We'll have a movie night. We're talking about getting a projector for the yard.
Ooh, I like it. There we go. July 4th. Happy birthday, America. 2001, the new Mini is officially launched in the United States, which is not a very America thing to do, but it happened.
No, it's not. And I was actually trying to find some USA stuff. There was another event. I'll just say really quick. 1984, July 4th, Richard Petty won his 200th career race in NASCAR, the Firecracker 400 at the Daytona in Daytona. That's very 4th of July.
Yes.
But we do a lot of NASCAR stuff, so I was going to leave it off, but...
We do a lot of NASCAR stuff, and neither of us even like NASCAR. So I don't know why this continues to happen, but we keep doing it for you guys. For all those people who like to turn left in a circle, we got you.
We got you. However, now that we're on NASCAR, the Chicago street race is coming up, and they do a NASCAR race on Lakeshore Drive in Chicago.
What?
They just started 2 years ago.
Never heard of that.
Yeah, it seems pretty wild. I haven't seen it.
You mean there are NASCAR cars on the street?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So it's like a NASCAR F1.
Yeah.
Wow. Two things we don't like in one, but I it does sound cooler than both of them separately.
They finally paved Lakeshore Drive just to have this race.
Wow. So, well, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah. It's funny what they have to do to get things done around these big cities.
That's right. Got to protect those drivers, but not the millions of people that drive over it every day.
But on the Mini side of things, I think we talk about Mini quite often as well.
We do.
I honestly really like those early generations. I had the Clubman. I would go back to that car. That's one car that I would have again. Yeah,
I wish I had a gut feeling that it was an okay old car purchase. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, my gut is like, don't do it, dude.
I think if you can find a lower mileage one, you might be all right. But,
yeah.
All right. July 5th, 2013, BMW builds its last M3 two-door coupe. Oh.
Sad days.
The coupe and the convertible were rebranded for the next model year as the 4 Series, and of course they had the high-performance M4 variant on those as well. The M3 was first introduced in 1986, which was sooner than earlier than I realized. I thought it was a 90s product, but here we are.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't you rent an M3?
Yeah, no, M4.
M4.
Yeah, a two-door M4. Yeah, recently. I think it was a 2018, maybe 2019, 2020. It was awesome. I've never driven an M3, which is a sad thing to say. I would love to.
My buddy had an E36 M3 for a long time, convertible, which was so sick. And it's that, bright blue color that was, I think, only available on the M cars.
Laguna Seca? No, there was some color code name for it.
Yeah. But anyway, it was beautiful. I remember driving around in that thing, and it was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun. I had an E36 too, but not the M cars.
Yeah, I know. I'd love to drive an M3. I'd love to drive a brand new M3 too, because they're just monstrous. But yeah, 4 Series was fun. I enjoyed it. Although, if I was going to buy something, I would not buy an M4. I'd way opt for an M3 over an M4 to me.
Because they still do the M3 as a sedan, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And it's gnarly. And the M4s, I mean, it's all gnarly nowadays, but I don't know. I've always liked the body style of the M3 more than the M4.
Yeah.
The way they look.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking of gnarly everything, it's so true. Like, every car has 1,000 horsepower now if you want it to have. Like, what are we doing? Like, how are car companies competing, like, performance-wise? And then there's the new Bugatti, whatever it is, with like 1 million horsepower. like, what?
That is the technical amount that I got. Yeah, man. I don't know. I mean,
why?
Yeah.
Like, you can't even do anything with that.
Meanwhile, I just can't break the 200 horsepower fucking barrier over here. God. I'm like, I don't know. I'm losing my touch, man. I don't know what's going on.
You can run faster in the cars you own.
I guess. July 6th, 1961, the Renault 4CV was the first French car to sell 1 million units, and on this day, the last one was built. Its VW influence is very strong, and it had a rear-mounted 760cc engine that was connected to a 3-speed manual transmission. And my God, does this thing look like a bug.
It totally does. Yeah. Especially, like, the cabin especially. It's like they took a bug body, like, and then put this interesting little grill on it, which it doesn't need because the engine's in the back.
Totally.
A little faux grill action, which they did on the Corvette, which was another air-cooled car of the 60s.
Oh, yeah.
It first came out, they had no grill, and so people were like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Like, the engine's in the back, it's air-cooled.
You're
like,
breaking
you don't
the
need
rules.
This. And then they put a fake grill on it, and they sold 1 million of them.
There you go.
And I feel like they do that with, like, the new electric cars now.
Totally.
You know? Yeah. This is an interesting little vehicle.
It's basically like a wide-bodied bug.
Totally. Oh, that's interesting.
Big fender flares on front and back, but the body itself, if it didn't have those fenders, would literally be a bug.
Totally. I think it came in a 4-door too.
Jeez, wait, yeah, wow. That I don't know where they fit the other 2 doors, but
the good old French folks.
That's right.
French people are small, so small doors.
Yeah.
July 7th, 1953, Fuji Heavy Industries established the Subaru brand, which its name is taken from the Pleiades star cluster shown on the Subaru logo. The 6 stars represent the 6 companies that merged together to create Fuji Heavy Industries, which would lead to the first Subaru car, the 1500, which debuted in 1954, but they only built 20.
High numbers.
Right.
Fuji Heavy is a sick band name, by the way.
Yeah.
Just for one. And I think it was on this podcast that you told me for the first time about the whole star cluster deal with the Subaru logo. Okay. I had no idea. I don't know why I never even wondered what the hell is that logo. Because it is a weird logo.
It is, yeah.
I'm surprised they haven't changed it by now.
It's definitely evolved.
Yes. I couldn't draw it by hand, though.
No, that's true.
I couldn't do it. It's like too complex, you know?
Yeah. That's fair.
I wouldn't know where all the stars went. I wouldn't even know how many stars were on it, even though I own a Subaru. I just I don't know. I've never looked at it and really thought about it that deeply.
It's one of those car companies. I feel like, so a lot of car companies have their primary logo and then they have variations of it. Like the Ford Blue Oval has been around since 1903, basically, right? But there's like cool script, like block script that they'll put on their other cars or especially like their trucks and like, ways to diversify the branding of their company. Subaru doesn't have that. It's just the Subaru logo.
That's true. You know what another logo is that I could never even tell you what was on it? I couldn't tell you what was on the Mercedes-Benz logo.
It's the 3-point star.
Is it?
Yeah. Just a circle with the
What's inside the circle, though? Isn't there like leaves or something?
No, it's just a star. Or like 3-point star. Really? Yeah.
Okay. Well, see. Goes to show you. I don't know. July 7th. 2003, the 10,000th Aston Martin V12 Vanquish was manufactured at the Newport Pagnell factory. Produced from 01 to 07, the car was featured in the James Bond flick Die Another Day. It was indirectly replaced by the DBS until the second gen launched in 2012, which lasted for 6 years. A couple things here. Had no idea that they made 10,000 Vanquishes. That's kind of more than I would have thought.
It's a lot of V12 cars.
For sure. A badass car, by the way.
Yeah.
Die Another Day was a incredibly bad Bond film, but I do love all things Brosnan, so I'll take it.
Okay. You had a film admission. I have one.
Oh, God.
I've never seen a James Bond movie.
No fucking way, dude.
Not one.
How is that even possible, my guy?
I don't know. I've never seen it. Never seen them.
Oh, my God. I'm so glad you said this because I feel so much better about not having seen Back to the Future.
I've also never watched Game of Thrones, so whatever.
That's okay. That's like excusable because I feel like you got to really be interested in going into that.
Yeah.
Whereas a James Bond film it's like the Law and Order of movies. Anywhere you turn on a TV anywhere in the world at any time,
there's a James Bond
movie on. There's like literally something called the 7 day or 12 days of Bond on TV every Christmas on every channel. I feel like you're flipping through and it's like the same Bond movie on every one. Man, talk about we're having a movie night because I'm a huge James Bond guy.
Oh yeah,
I grew up watching. I've probably seen every James Bond film except for On Her Majesty's Secret Service about 1,000 times.
Wow.
Particularly the Brosnan films because I'm a '90s kid and Brosnan's the best Bond.
I mean, it would be fun to do a chat about the Bond cars.
That's true, and that's an interesting angle. I'm surprised that you hadn't sought them out simply because of the car thing.
Yeah, sure.
We've talked before about how I think we share, even though you haven't seen any Bond movies, we share the sentiment that I think Aston Martin would be a fraction of what it is without Bond.
Well, it's the same as the DeLorean.
Yeah. Which is interesting because obviously Bond has enduring, timeless qualities, but I'm amazed that Aston Martin has been able to hitch their wagon to it for this long.
True. That's true.
But it's it's sort of a marketing, timeless marketing 101 thing to consider, right?
I think the thing about it, though, is it almost has to be Aston Martin because James Bond is English, Aston Martin is English. Like, what else? What other car company would it be?
Lotus, MG.
But MG, it's too small. It's like kind of a like layman's car. Lotus, yeah, I could see that, but it's not quite as luxurious. It's a sports car,
Oh, I'm not saying this is a good idea.
No, but you're just Land Rover. I mean, there have been Land Rovers.
Rolls Royce?
Yeah, I guess you could do Rolls Royce or Bentley, but they're not like secret agent cars.
Yeah, and the other thing about Bond that a lot of people forget about is he drove a bunch of weird ass not Aston Martin cars over the years.
If I remember right, in one of the first ones, he drove like a Tri-5 Chevy, like a Chevy from the 50s.
Yeah, he drives a Ford in one of them.
Yeah.
He drives all these weird totally off-brand, in my opinion, for Bond cars. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, interesting.
It is. Man, we're down to it. July 8th, 2010. Smart USA, the company that sells the ultra small Smart for two, began offering customers the option to have their car painted any color they want. This is genius. And we've talked about this, the Audi Skittles colors, the Harlequin Volkswagen.
Yep.
Smart just came out and said, you can have any color you want. Anti-Henry Ford, which I love. So customers would be able to choose from any of Smart's 6 basic colors at no additional cost. But for $1,550 more, they could choose from a palette of 93 other colors. 93 is not any color you want, right? Yeah. Well, if none of those colors did it for you, you could bring in a paint sample and they would paint your car any color you want.
So dope.
So dope. And then they even offered wrap jobs starting at $1,350. They had basic designs like plaid, which is kind of an interesting thought. I was actually thinking about this. Why are there not plaid cars? But I guess there are. Or there were from Smart.
Yeah, also that's wild that they did factory wraps.
Right? So I was reading about this a little bit, and so the way the car was assembled in pieces, it went through the paint booth, on the assembly line or whatever, and it was slow enough where they could just change out the colors. And so just the way that it was manufactured allowed for them to do this.
Whoa. Wow, that's actually really cool. But the weirder part about this is I've never seen one of these cars in any color other than silver.
Silver and that blue. There's
oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I also remember seeing one of these parked on a hill in Seattle 10 years ago or something, and it was a fairly steep hill. Nobody was in it, and the car kept inching backwards, the parking brake was not engaged fully.
I'm sure that ended well.
Yeah, I left before I could see what happened. But anyway, I was also surprised to learn that these cars went out of production this year, 2024.
Yeah.
I thought that they ended years ago.
Yeah.
But Mercedes pulled the plug.
Yeah, and we've talked about this on a previous episode, but Brabus made a high performance version of this car, which I think is absolutely hilarious. And keeping in mind, it has a 1 liter, 3-cylinder, 70 horsepower engine in it for the Brabus, which is crazy.
Damn.
Yeah. So big power. But yeah, in a way, those cars were almost ahead of their time.
That's fair.
In terms of especially the miles per gallon element, I think it's basically like it gets better gas mileage than modern day hybrids do, which is pretty hilarious.
That's true. But for what it is, it only got 40 miles per gallon about on the highway. Yeah. And so that still seems low for what you're buying. And to be honest, I don't know what these were going for new. Like, how much did one of these cost? Yeah,
that's a good question. I would think that, let's see, a 2019 started at 14 grand.
Oh, wow.
No way.
I mean, you're basically buying a go-kart that's street legal.
Wow. Actually, that is weirdly cheap. Maybe this is the car we've been asking about all this time.
And it's been right under our nose.
Yeah, man. Where's our sub $20,000 car that does it all? Now, the question is, does it have Apple CarPlay?
Oh.
I don't know. We'll find out. This is like, I'm waiting on bated breath.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yes. Some smart cars have Apple CarPlay. My God. We've done it, man.
Well, good thing they just discontinued them. Found it just in time.
I wonder.
Pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah. There is a YouTube channel that I watch called Steph AB. I think he lives in France. He bought a Brabus smart car. And like tried to fix it up, and he had to replace the whole transmission or whatever else, but he bought it for cheap. But that would be an interesting, weird car as like a project car. Although I feel like it's a car that you'd think would be fun to have, and then you'd have it for a week and you'd be so tired of it.
I mean, I've seen people do interesting things with them, like make them into hunting rigs, like off-road, camo, all that. Yeah, it's one of those like anomaly vehicles that is out there, and you see them, and then you never think about them except when they're in front of you.
I also, like, Fight Me, I think they're great. I think they look pretty good.
Yeah, it's not a bad design.
It's some kind of fun lines.
It's very European.
It is. And I do like the later versions when they had these, like, the body kits changed a little bit and they had, like, LED headlights and stuff. They looked like they updated with the times accordingly. Let's just put it that way. They could have stuck with the same dumb Gen 1 look forever and it would not be that cool. But they did have a modern take to them.
Totally.
They continued to update them. Yeah.
Cool, man. That does it for the history portion of things. We got a question from one of our valued listeners.
Yes, sir.
It says, you guys don't like F1. Do you follow any other race series?
No. I mean, the answer is maybe the Gumball 3000 from when I was 11 years old. That was cool. But no, not really.
I'm the same way. I feel like I will watch certain races if they're just on TV, but I don't seek it out. I don't pay attention. I don't know who's doing what.
I'm going to give away $1 billion idea like we always do in this podcast.
Let's hear it.
How has there not been a show about rally driving? Rally racing. How?
Put that back in your pocket. We're doing
documentary, limited series even, right?
Yeah, totally.
I mean, it's 10 times cooler than F1. Sorry, F1 fans. It's dynamic. I'm sure the drivers who are like true rally drivers are absolute characters. I'm sure they are just the craziest, coolest, weirdest people.
The craziest job in all of that? The navigator.
Oh, yeah.
You are just trusting your life to somebody. Of course, it's also kind of on you to make sure that they turn when they need to turn.
Yes, this is true. Yeah. I think it's amazing that there hasn't been like an in-depth, really beautifully done documentary series or documentary or TV show about rally drivers. And maybe if there has been one, I haven't heard about it. So if you know about it, drop us a line and let us know, because it seems like it's adrenaline-filled, cool cars, beautiful locations.
Yeah.
The stories are awesome. Yeah. The history and the lore is deep.
But they do... I mean, Rally has a following. They have Rally in like the X Games. Remember when like Travis Pastrana was like racing Subarus, and like it's interesting when they put Rally into an arena space. I mean, I'm much more a fan of it when it's out in the open, but it's one of those things that can be condensed so much, and it's still interesting to watch. Yeah. But you're right. I would watch that show.
Yeah, I would watch it. Somebody produce it. Just kidding. We're going to produce it. It's our idea. Don't take it.
Do not
take it.
Do not take it. Any closing words?
No, aside from the fact that I thought the other day that a Focus RS would be the perfect one-car solution. I thought, oh, maybe they're a little cheaper now. No, they're not cheaper. Even though they were discontinued years ago, they're like 40 grand still with 80,000 miles on them. So count me out of the Focus RS game.
That's crazy. It's a Ford.
I know. And they were
Ford
all
car.
broken from the factory for the first 3 years too. Literally. They had recalls on the engine, which would just explode. So
perfect.
You went in, they just fixed a whole half your engine, or they gave you a new engine or whatever at the time.
Seems very Ford.
Yeah, I guess. Gotta do what you gotta do, I guess.
Gotta do what you gotta do.
Where can people find us?
Right. That's what we need to do.
Yeah.
Friends, be sure to subscribe, rate, share.
Share.
You know, we're all over the place. Obviously, you're listening to this, but join us on Facebook, This Day in Automotive History -- Drive History, and on Instagram at the Drive History Pod or This Day in Automotive History. And Jordan, you just left Instagram.
Yeah, I'm off of it for a while. I mean, my account's still there, but you know, I'm feeling the need for some more discipline.
Go give him some love. He needs to be told that it's okay to be on the
Follow
IG.
me, baby. Give me that dopamine drip. Hook me up.
Give him those little red hearts.
Exactly. Awesome. What a great episode. That was solid. There's some good facts in there.
I loved it.
Yes. We'll be back again, same time next week. Love you. Until then.
Drive history every day.
Goodbye.